Hello, my name is Kevin, and this is the program that I did. The purpose of it is to find the density of a cylinder, density of a rectangular prism, surface area of a cylinder, and the surface area of a rectangular prism.
Are these topics that you are currently studying in math?
These topics are things that I'm studying in both math and in science,
Oh, great.
so that would combine them into this. Alright, in the beginning, the very beginning part, I have this code here, which is my preprocessor directives, and using namespace, the standard namespace. I avoided main because I didn't want to return anything. I just wanted to output things to the screen. And here, I made a lot of variables for use later on in the program. And this variable here is probably one of the most important ones because it determines what type of math I'll be doing for the program. And this is the code for making the choice of what is going to happen. So like whether you'll be doing density of a cylinder or the rectangular prism and the other two choices. And so basically this tells the user, oh, what do you want to do? And then I cend whatever the person chose.
What do you mean by cin? Can you differentiate between cout and cin?
Cout is outputting to screen, and cin is getting input from the user and saving it into a particular variable. So then here I begin the logic statements. So if the user choice chose 1,
If the user choice value is 1.
yeah, if the person basically typed in 1, then it would execute this amount of this code here, and so on and so on. But here I'll demonstrate the program. Alright, so it asks, what would you like to do? And then you select one of the choices, so I'll just do, just do 1. And what is the radius in inches? So just pick 5. And the height, 10. Mass in grams, do 100, just to make it easy. And then it tells you, it does all the math, and then it tells you in grams per inches squared.
And why would one be interested in obtaining the density of a cylinder? What is that used for?
You could use it, for example, in metals to determine what metal something is.
Right.
Like pure gold is not the same density as pure iron.
Okay.
And that is one good way to differentiate the two. And if you have it in a cylindrical shape, it would be easier to do.
Okay. I see. Okay. All right. Explain to us the other parts of your program.
The other parts of the program are mainly just like asking for the input from the user for the different fields, like the height, the radius, the mass, and the math portion is over here. It's all the, it just kind of just puts everything together.
You're talking about you've broken this formula up into smaller blocks that you first, subtotals that you first calculate, and then you present the person with the completed formula at the end.
Yes, it was a lot easier to do it that way.
Okay.
With the math.
Does anybody see anything that Kevin could have done differently to have made this part a little more easier for the user, or more straightforward, or anything? Okay, so go to a site, it's got a lot of errors, and so the impression is, oh, the information is not reliable at all, right? Okay. But the only other thing I would add at this point is when you do the output, you calculate the density correctly, but you don't output a string that says the density of this, what is that, a cylinder? The density of the cylinder is, and then you put in the actual number. Well, once the person enters all that information, you just get a number with the units, the proper units, but you don't have anything in front of that.
All right. Yeah.
Ross, were you going to say something?
Well, I feel like it would be implied, considering they chose to calculate the density.
Right.
So it might not have to be
As straightforward, right. It may not be necessary. That's what you're saying.
but I mean, it wouldn't help.
Right. I'm only thinking about other math apps that I've used. You get into a particular part of the program where you know that it's supposed to do something, but at the end, the output says, you know, the result is, or the density is, or the derivative of the function is. You know, it still has that text string that precedes the actual quantity that you're looking for. Okay. All right, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, each one just has their like math part, and yeah, there's nothing really that complicated.
Okay, run it again. Let me just see what. Let me just pick another random part here. You got density, area. Okay. There's one other thing that I think would definitely go a long way, Kevin. Another thing that would definitely go a long way is if you actually provided visuals of what a rectangular prism looks like. Yeah. But you see, even now, Maureen, when you're describing using your hands what it is, it's still not obvious. It may not be obvious to everybody how a rectangular prism should look like. If, for example, Kevin, I were to input number 4 at this point, I would want. Go ahead and enter 4. See, at this point, I would have a picture of a rectangular prism where it shows all of these different dimensions and where they're located with respect to the object. Okay, are you talking about length if the prism is standing, you know, or what if the prism were lateral? What if it were on its side? Now, what is the length in that case? Well, with a bunch of cout statements, the way you did ASCII art. It's like doing a fancy version of ASCII art, right? If you want to do console images like that, you're going to have to use a bunch of cout statements and spaces, and that's one of the reasons why we talked about the escape characters. You know, like backslash, T will tab over, backslash, N will move output to a new line, etc., etc. There's a bunch of escape character sequences in C++, right? All right, so let's enter a length. Let's do. I don't know what units you're talking about here. Are we talking inches, feet, meters? What are we talking about?
Well, the units part of this one, I thought that would be up to you to determine. Like, oh, if you're dealing with feet,
Right.
everything. Like,
Right, but I don't even know once you hit click. You know, you type 4. It doesn't tell me. Suggest the units. You know, be in this quantity or. That's the assumption. Yeah, that's the assumption one would make. I would still clarify. See, I would clarify that. I would clarify that. Once you input 4, Kevin, I would want an image of a rectangular prism where you're labeling the length, width, and height of it, and then you would say this subroutine or this part of the program will calculate the area, make sure that your units are, consistent or whatever. Because remember, guys, you're going to be using this in math and science, and I'll give you a perfect example. When you're talking about projectile motion, yeah, you could use as the force of gravity 9.8 meters per second squared, or you could use 32 feet per second squared. It's gonna, your output is going to change dramatically depending on whether you're using the, metric units or the standard English units, right? So you have to be clear with that, okay? All right? Any other questions or comments? Maureen?
No, that's volume.
Volume is, let's see. Okay, you see, that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why a drawing would be very helpful.
Yeah,
She looked at.
the math portion. I made
Yeah.
sure to be careful of that. I did like 2 times the surface area of the base and 4 times the height times one.
And you may even want to, in that particular part of your program, you may even want to try to output a formula somehow so that the person knows what it is that you're calculating. The idea is to do the calculation quickly, right? But you could still help the person that's entering the values. You could still help them along and say, have a better idea of how the formula works. That way you don't run into the confusion that Marin had. Well, I'm thinking volume, but it's really not volume. You're doing surface area. When you think rectangle, you're thinking, okay, length times width, or rectangular solid, length times width times height. No, there are other things that you can calculate for a rectangle in Euclidean in a Euclidean plane, or a rectangular solid in space. There are other things you could do in addition to volume, right? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So now, guys, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to.
It's still recording.
Yeah, that's fine. Go here, guys. Enter that on with your QR code scanner. Okay. No, you're going to be providing constructive feedback. I want the feedback to be constructive. Okay. Presentations. I enter all of that information and then click submit, and then we'll do the next presentation. Okay. Very good, Kevin. Thank you. Okay. Very good.